First off, I wanted to say welcome and thank you all for being here today. I'm super pumped for this. I've been really looking forward to this. I know Glen and I have put a tremendous amount of preparation work into this to make sure that we're going to be providing you guys with just an amazing amount of free value here today in this short little training that we're going to be doing with you guys today. I wanted to kind of start off by just quickly talking about what we are going to be going through with you guys. So what we're going to be talking about today is how to really scale your efforts and double your production and double your sales through delegation, working more efficiently, being able to get certain tasks off your plate, and kind of how you can do that strategically. So I'm really excited about it. I wanted to start off by giving the floor over to Glen to let him just give a quick introduction if anybody maybe doesn't know him yet, if you live under a rock.
Christian, thank you. Yeah, so, I spoke at the summit. If you guys were in Utah at the Six Figure Medicare Agent Summit earlier this year, just a couple months ago. Seems like that was 10 years ago, but it was really only just a couple months ago. And if you were there, you may have saw me speak. And, the topic was all about how to get an ROI, a return on investment on your time. And, to give you a little background about myself, I was an agent for several years. As I was transitioning from the agency I was at to becoming an independent agent, I realized I needed help. I couldn't do everything myself. And specifically, to really simplify it, I was spending half my week on the phone, setting appointments, following up with old leads, calling the carrier, dealing with customer service issues with my clients. I mean, it was almost half my work week that I was spending on the phone. So I kind of set out on this mission at the time. How can I find someone who can help me with all this phone related work and any other kind of basic admin tasks that I'm spending my valuable time doing? And, fast forward to today, we have more than 150 people on payroll at Lead Heroes and Hire Heroes, where, we help everyone who has these same problems that I had as an agent. So that's just kind of a quick 2-minute background on myself and kind of, where I came from, why I do what I do today. And yeah, I'm excited specifics today because it is an epidemic to watch all of you who are on this webinar and who aren't on this webinar spend your extremely limited valuable time doing generate revenue. Last thing, I'll kind of jump in more of the specifics. Have you had one of those days where you've been working sun up to sundown, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and you've been busy? You have been constantly doing things, doing tasks on the phone. But when you get to the end of the day, the revenue generated from your work doesn't line up with how hard you worked. That's the problem. How can you do work 8 to 12 hours a day? You're work effort. So I want to turn it back over to Christian here. I want him introduction, and then I also have one of our virtual assistants from Hire Heroes, Nikki. She's on the call today. I'll have her do a quick 1-minute introduction as well. She is the account executive. So for those of you who already work with us at Hire Heroes, or if this is something that you're looking at doing in the future, Nikki would be kind of your main point of contact. So yeah, Christian, do you want to have a quick introduction and maybe share some of your experience, and then Nikki can introduce herself and we'll go from there.
Yes, sounds good. Sounds great. So for those of you who don't know me, I just imagine you guys all know me at this point because kind of harass you guys a bit on your news feeds. But my name is, of course, Christian Brindle. I own and operate Christian Brindle Insurance Services, Six Figure Medicare Agent, Insurance Influencer, and the Six Figure Medicare Agent Summit. I wanted to talk about this today because I feel like it's something that's incredibly personal for me. And I'm going to get into more of the nitty gritty in a second here in terms of how building a great team around me has helped grow my business and how having great people around you can really just help with things. Because at the end of the day, we are all just one individual, right? We all have 24 hours in a day, and everybody, no matter how efficient you are and no matter how much productivity you might be with. For me, in my organization, I have a small team of about 4 or 5 people, but the 4 or 5 people that I have, we move mountains every day in our office. We get a tremendous amount done every day. We ran an entire conference with that small team of about 150 people at the Six Figure Medicare Agent Summit this year. And, we just get so much done on a day-to-day basis, which I never could have done as an individual person in the past. So what I'm going to be doing for you guys here today, and just to kind of give you guys an idea of kind of our growth. So for me personally, I have been a top producing insurance agent for 6 different carriers, most of which many, many times over. I have built a very large direct-to-consumer agency, and we work with about 200 agents that are contracted with us about across the country. So we actually have a small FMO division of our business as well as the consulting, the events, everything like that. So we do a tremendous amount on a day-to-day basis, but it would not be possible without the amazing team that we have here in our office. And so today I'm going to be talking about exactly what that looks like. And I'm going to break down a little bit of the intimate details here and actually how that matters in terms of allowing you to write more business, to have more of an income producing activity focus. So that's just a little bit of my intro, guys. So what I'll do is I will turn it over to Nikki. What I'll do is I will spotlight Nikki so you guys can all see her, and I will turn it over to her for a moment.
Hey, I love your shirt, Nikki.
Thank you. Hello. Hello, guys. Good morning. I'm Nikki, the account executive for Hire Heroes. So anything that you when the webinar is over, like if you need help, set up an account with us. I'll be your point of contact. You can shoot me an email at info@hireheroes.com. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Hey, I appreciate that introduction, Nikki. If you want to share the link, so part of what Christian and I are doing today, this is probably going to end soon, but right now at Hire Heroes, you can get a full week, so 40 hours of work from a virtual assistant, just like Nikki, who you guys just saw a moment ago. You can sign up today, and within typically 3 to 5 business days, we can find a virtual assistant that fits your needs. And that first week, the first 40 hours is 100% free to try it out. So Nikki just shared the link in the chat if you guys want to go ahead and sign up. We're going to come back to that and talk more about that later. Christian, I really want to get into kind of the meat and potatoes of, the specific tasks that you guys are doing that you shouldn't be doing and the time around those tasks. And also, again, the webinar is about how to double your production during AEP. We have this limited time every year where, it's like a gold rush, essentially. You can't do this year round the way that you can do it during AEP. Yes, you can sell Medicare year round, but there's a lot that can be done during AEP. So it's about maximizing your time specifically. So I'm going to turn this back over to Christian, and he's going to go through the specifics on the tasks that he has his team do during AEP. And then I'm going to kind of talk about how a virtual assistant can help you with some of these same tasks. So Christian, take it away.
Perfect. So what I'm going to do, guys, is just temporarily, so you can see my whiteboard a little bit better, I'm just going to remove Glen from the spotlight, but I will be bringing him back momentarily. So I'm just going to spend a couple minutes. Hope you guys can see me okay. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that's very personal to me today. So for me individually, I was probably I don't even remember what year it was, but I got to a point where I faced an AEP where I had gotten to a point where my business had reached a certain size to where I just could not do everything myself anymore. And I got to the point where I wasn't able to grow anymore. A lot of you on this webinar might be in that challenge as we speak. I got to a place where I was spending so much time doing customer retention, customer service during AEP that it was preventing me from being able to write new business. And I got to a place where I was working harder than ever. I might have been working 90 to 100 hours a week that final AEP, completely by myself, and my production was down from the year before. So I was working harder to get less new business. And to me, that's a tremendous problem. And so everybody gets to a place where you're going to reach a ceiling, right? The potential of what your business is going to be able to do is going to have a cap when you're the only person in it, right? I mean, teamwork makes the dream work. And so I wanted to kind of talk about my kind of evolution of my business. Just letting some more people in that are jumping into the waiting room. I'm going to talk about my evolution of my business and kind of what it looked like along the path that allowed us to grow into what we are today and to have the team that we have today. So the first thing that I ran into of things that I was spending time on that wasn't allowing me to grow the business was as follows. So customer service, claims, which you could maybe put that in customer service, but I'll give it kind of its own category because it can be kind of a thing. Drug comparisons, doctor checks, all of these things, right, were things that I was doing from my own existing book of business. Sorry, guys, there's just people nonstop jumping into the waiting room, and I don't want to leave anybody out in the cold. These were all things that I was doing nonstop in my business on a day-to-day basis that was preventing me from making new sales. Because you don't have unlimited time in the day. You only have a finite amount of time that you can spend each and every day. So if you are trying to retain your clients and you're spending all of your time doing that and you're never growing, there's only so much that you can possibly do. We need to really have someone else do this next time. What are the last two? Drug comparisons and doctor checks. So I have customer service, claims, drug comparisons, and doctor checks. And that's just scratching the surface of some things that you're probably all spending time on during AEP that doesn't put money in your pocket. Now, drug comparisons, doctor checks, those things kind of go hand in hand with making sales. But if you have a referral come in, let's say, it would be probably a more efficient use of your time if somebody else could check those things out for you so you could spend your time talking to maybe more potential new customers and clients, okay? So what I did was the first person that I hired in my business was hired to come in and help with all of these things, okay? So this person kind of came in and they helped with all of these different items in my business, okay? Now, what did that do? That took a big chunk off of my workload, right? So I could spend more time writing business, okay? In my opinion, you guys, I think you should not spend more than 5% of your time talking to your existing clients and customers if you can help it. If you're a one-man show, that's almost impossible. If you have 500 clients, 600 clients, 700, 1,000 clients, and you're completely on your own as an agent, you're probably going to spend 60, 70, 80% of your day speaking with your existing clients and customers. So if you're spending all this time talking to your existing clients and customers, how can you hope to spend any time talking to new ones, right? It's all a numbers game. In order to get new clients, you have to make time for new clients, right? So this is essentially what we did. So the first person we brought into our business was to help with customer service. Then, once we got to a point where that was no longer an issue, we started doing some different things in our business, right? When you start to free up time, one thing that you find is you have more time to focus on other ways to expand your business, other ways that you can do different things in your business to bring in different sources of revenue, right? So you have the book of business revenue, you have the client revenue, you want to scale that to the moon. But we started working with agents at that point because I was able to put up numbers, I was able to produce, but I was able to do it in such an efficient way. So I had some time to where I could work with agents. I could do consulting, I could contract agents, I could mentor agents and all these different things. So I started working with agents. Very, very quickly, that got to a point where I was overloaded with agents. And all of a sudden, I'm doing all the contracting work. I'm doing all of the one-on-one training work. I'm doing all of this stuff on a day-to-day basis in my business. And all of a sudden, the time that I freed up is now being spent doing something else that doesn't put money in my pocket. Let's just say contracting, right? So this is not necessarily in order based on how we hired people, but this is kind of the way I feel like our business is structured in terms of how we've hired people and what's allowed me to be able to do what I do on a day-to-day basis. So we brought somebody in for agent support, agent relations. And that allowed us to get some help with contracting, right? Now that's completely off of my plate. And there's new people being contracted in our organization almost essentially every day. And I don't really know what's going on with it. It's out of my attention because it's not my role anymore in the business. So this frees me up to do what? Do more work with agents, bring on more agents, right? I can focus on doing what I need to do to grow the business. Now, as of last year, I was spending a lot of my time still writing new business. And I was also spending a lot of my time working with agents. Plus, I was doing a lot of the content marketing that I do now, right? So people ask me all the time, how do you get done everything you do on a day-to-day basis? Well, this is exactly the roadmap. How? I have a very, very dedicated and fantastic person in each role that helps me get all of these certain tasks done on a day-to-day basis. So there's a lot that happens in our organization behind the scenes that you guys don't even see that allows us to get so much done on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so I was selling last year, but I was doing a lot of trainings. I was doing a lot of content. I was doing a lot of things. I don't want our individual offices production to die off, right? But I can't be writing the apps myself anymore. I need other people to do that for me. So my wife Stormy's licensed. She wanted to be an agent. She desperately wanted to be an agent. I didn't push her. I didn't make her. I promise. We also have another agent that's come into our office, right? That's now an agent internally that can write the policies so I don't have to anymore, which helps the agency's book of business continue to grow. So we now have internal agents. So you guys might notice a pattern here, right? Every time we add something to the equation where we bring somebody in to take something off my plate, my attention gets shifted into something else to help grow the business. Eventually, that's going to overwhelm me. Eventually, that part of the business is going to continue to grow to the point where it's taking up a lot of my time. So then that part of the business has grown enough to fund the salary for another person to kind of take in that role and help grow that part of the business. And this is where we really get to a place where we're able to scale, because I can focus on different elements of my business that need my attention in order to grow. Once it's grown enough, I can then bring somebody in to help me manage that part of the business, right? So this is how we kind of get to the place where we have growth upon growth upon growth, layers upon layers upon layers. Now, we also have a Hire Heroes virtual assistant that works with us, which Glen will talk about a little bit more at the end, but I'm happy to share my experience with you guys on this as well. So we have our virtual assistant. Our virtual assistant is now taking over a majority of posting on different social medias, responding to people on things like LinkedIn, right? How many of you guys get absolutely nothing out of LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all these different platforms? Well, I was exactly that way too. We were leveraging Facebook, YouTube, and these different kind of platforms for our benefit, but I was the one putting all the attention into these platforms to make that happen. So I was getting nothing out of LinkedIn. I was getting nothing out of Instagram, but that's just because I only have so many hours in the day. I can't put my time towards all these different platforms. So what do? We bring in a virtual assistant through Hire Heroes. They actually take my content. They help repurpose my content. They help us post on Instagram, on LinkedIn. So that way we can grow our following. We can engage with people that try to message us, right? People that message us don't get replies from me on those platforms. They're getting replies from our virtual assistant. So that virtual assistant manages not just those, they manage our Facebook business pages. They manage a Twitter account that nobody follows. I don't even know why we have it, but the other platforms are very, very valuable. So now we're able to leverage other types of social media so I don't have to focus on it as much. So as you guys can see, my business model is all about putting my attention towards one piece of the business, one area of the business. And over time, as that area and that branch of the business grows into something, then we can bring somebody in internally to help take a lot of the mundane tasks off my plate. So then I can focus on something else in my business. And this is how we've become such a business with so many different branches and elements and looks. And it's really kind of what's allowed us to continue to scale, because if I put my attention from one area of my business to something else, the other area I'm not focusing on doesn't have to take a dip in production or productivity one bit. because there's other people that are going to be focusing on it, right? So the machine still works. The cogs in the machine still continue to function. So this is essentially my strategy. This is how I've been able to do this, right? And so you bring people in based on needs. Now, I want to talk a little bit about my virtual assistant, but I also wanted to make sure that I gave Glen time to kind of go over his portion of things. But that's kind of how my strategy has been.
Yeah, stop hoarding the webinar, dude. Oh my gosh. Technically, I feel like this is like a giant Taco Tuesday, dude. It is Tuesday.
It kind of is. It kind of is.
is.
I almost put on my Taco Tuesday socks this morning. I could go on about this, guys, but I think you guys get the point. You see how this works. You see how it just evolves over time. You don't have to start out with 10 employees. You start off with one that helps you, and then you keep hiring based on need. But hiring people allows you to grow brick by brick, little by little.
There's so much there. And I think Christian just gave you guys like a really high level overview of how you can scale your business, not even just beyond AEP production, but I mean, he was just talking about scaling into an agency and IMO, really kind of a roadmap for you guys. I mean, I can't tell you how many agents, agency owners, business owners that I talk to every day or every week, and they get so locked into, well, I need to do this. I mean, it's shocking, honestly. Even some of the best entrepreneurs I know, they still have this mindset where it's like, I'm the only person that can answer the phone. I'm the only person that can manage this task.
I have one more thing I want to cover, and then I will turn it over to you. I'll be quick about it.
Sounds good.
I don't want to hog.
No.
Webinar,
we got time. We got time.
So one thing I wanted to talk about is that's essentially the different areas of people that we have working in our office. But what do they do during AEP to help us have a better AEP, right? Because that's what this is all about.
Right.
So customer service, they help retain our clients, right? So we actually will call our clients every single year. So every client we have that has Medicare Advantage, we don't call them Medicare Supplement people, but we do send them a letter. So we send out a letter to Medicare Supplement clients. It's already gone out. We send another letter, a separate letter to our Medicare Advantage clients that has already gone out. I'll post them as soon as I get copies. I still haven't seen copies, but I post them in the group every year. This is a yearly thing that we do. And then our team will call the clients and just walk through changes on their Medicare Advantage plans. What we find is typically about 90% of them just want to stay with it. But we're getting to a point where somebody has spoke to them. It's a very personal interaction. And we do this over the first couple of weeks, and this helps our retention efforts tremendously. Now, there are some people that need to review their prescriptions, change plans, whatever the case might be. They're not happy with their plan. And then we schedule appointments with them to come into the office or over the phone to get that done. But we're cutting out 80% of the client work probably by doing this, because a lot of them are just happy. And let's face it, I mean, this isn't the case everywhere, but in a lot of markets, the Medicare Advantage changes aren't that dramatic, right? If anything, the plans probably even get a little better. So they're probably just pretty happy with it. And this plays a big role. So then, the agent solutions, the agent relations staff members. Well, Celeste, everybody knows Celeste in my office, so I'll just say her name. Celeste helps with agents throughout AEP, but she also helps with the client efforts and reaching out to the clients and those kind of things if there's not enough agent stuff to do, but she's there to help our agents during AEP with resources, with things that they need. So that's something that we do to try to help our agents have a better AEP. Internal agents, that one's pretty easy, guys. We buy a bunch of leads. I generate a lot of leads. I market a lot, and they sell. That's what they're here for. They write apps just like crazy. And then, of course, our virtual assistant doesn't change what they do during AEP. They keep doing it all year round. And so throughout AEP, we try to become a well-oiled machine that can absolutely just dominate AEP, and we can absolutely just bulldoze people that don't have the level of productivity we do. So that's what I got for you guys. I just wanted to just kind of dive into that part of it specifically about AEP. I think you guys have heard enough from me for a minute. I'm going to turn it over to Glen. I'm going to back out for just a sec because he's got some great material he's going to share with you guys as well.
Yeah. And again, just to let you guys know, we are planning on allocating a good chunk of time for Q&A at the end of the webinar.
Yes.
So I understand you might have questions or comments, feel free to hold on to those, or you can even drop them in the chat now if you want. And once we get done here, we're going to spend as much time really as you guys need within reason, as much as Christian and mine's schedule will allow us to answer questions. So one thing that, again, I was thinking about the summit, and there was an analogy that I didn't get into when I was speaking at the summit that I really want to share with you guys, because it really is, in my opinion, it's the perfect analogy for how, as an agent or an agency owner, how you should be running operations. So who here's been to a doctor, right? Who's been to a doctor's office at any point in the past several years, right? So how does a doctor manage his practice? So if you are getting an appointment to see, if you're trying to set up an appointment to see the doctor, is that being done with the doctor, or is someone else setting that appointment for you? Obviously the doctor is not taking your phone call, whether it's kind of a call center operation that's setting that appointment, or it's a front desk person that's setting that appointment. The doctor is not spending his valuable time setting that appointment up with you. When you get there to check in, again, that's not the doctor. When you go back and you have kind of a pre-qualification, right? Is that the doctor? Is the doctor taking you back in and weighing you, checking your height, going over like any prescriptions you're on, the basics? No, that's still not the doctor. Now, that's someone a little higher qualified than just a front desk person. It could be like a nurse. But again, the doctor's not spending his time doing that. So when the doctor does come in, and if you really look at this from like a leads point of view, right? A prospect coming into your agency, if an appointment's being set to see you over the phone or in person, you can mimic this same concept, right? They can talk to an assistant, whether it's someone in-house in your office or it's a virtual assistant. They can set that appointment up for you. They can do a pre-qualification for you, just like Christian talked about. Going through drug comps. What prescriptions are you on? Checking doctors. What doctors are you seeing right now? What doctors do you have to have, right? They can pre-qualify these prospects for you. They can set an appointment for you. And so when you do get involved, just like when a doctor gets involved, it is only the most valuable part in the whole process that they're spending their time doing. I remember I went to the emergency room once because I was just feeling just really ill. This was several years ago. And I had to wait. Obviously I didn't have an appointment time. I had to wait. But once I got back there to see the doctor, they spent all of maybe 5 minutes with me. And, on one hand, it's easy for me to say, wow, I'm disappointed. I wish I had more time with them. But the reality is, as an emergency room doctor with a waiting room full of people, your time is way too valuable. And if I'm not like on my deathbed, you can't spend a lot of time with me. And you have to really have that same mindset as an agent, because your waiting room should be full. And during AEP, your waiting room should be, full and out the door. You should have so many prospects that you're trying to get through that it is just every day, you're maxing out your time. I spent 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour with this couple or this prospect. I was able to write them, this policy, et cetera, et cetera. And then again, at the end of this, to kind of continue this analogy, when a doctor's done, they're not doing the follow-up. They're handing that off to someone else. They're handing that off to the person at the front desk. They're handing it off to the nurse. A lot of times if something needs to be executed, if there's maybe you're getting a vaccine or a shot, or you're getting a prescription, a lot of times it goes right back to the nurse, and then the nurse kicks you back to the front desk to schedule a follow-up. And that doctor is staying within that window of the most valuable time where only he can do, the actual job itself. And that's the same mindset as an agent you need to have. And it might seem a bit outlandish to think that, well, Glenn, I'm not a doctor. You're not a doctor, but your time can be just as valuable as a doctor. And I'm saying that like as a monetary basis, like if you were to take what a doctor makes per hour, you can absolutely make as much money as what a doctor makes per hour if you execute it in the same manner that a doctor does. So, I hope that wasn't too abstract for you guys, but I've always kind of latched onto that because I thought it was such a good metaphor for how, the most efficient and the most productive agents and agencies that I work with, that I know, that's exactly how they operate. They're not spending their days setting appointments. They're not spending their days, chasing old leads. They are spending their time with their highest revenue generating activity, which is selling policies, writing policies. And everything outside of that is being outsourced or being delegated to staff in office or outsourced virtually, to a virtual assistant. So I want to get into now that I've got that analogy out of the way. Hey, thanks, Becky. I want to get into specifics on tasks. So, I mentioned earlier, I have almost 150 people on payroll today. And when it comes to time, to give you the scale of time when I'm working with my team, I can get a year's worth of work done within a few days. If I were to try to do all the tasks that my entire team's doing on a day-to-day basis, if I was trying to do that myself, it would take me over a year. And my team can get it done in days and within just a few days. That's the sort of leverage that I have. And you guys all have the same. This isn't like a secret. This isn't something that doesn't exist outside of my company. This is something anyone can take advantage of, leveraging someone else's time, paying them to handle these tasks that don't generate you the most revenue. So I want to get into specifics with the actual tasks that we're seeing at Hire Heroes, that we're helping agents and agency owners with, that I find to be extremely valuable, again, when it comes to saving you guys time. So hopefully everyone on the call today has a CRM system or some method of tracking clients, tracking leads that goes beyond paper. I will admit, when I was new in the industry, it was a folder and I was stuffing direct mail leads in a folder. And I had a binder and I'm just driving around and I'm knocking on doors, and I was not organized when I first got into the industry. But what I can tell you today, especially with where technology's at and CRMs are at, you'd be crazy to not have some type of virtual or digital filing system where you can stay on top of your prospects, stay on top of your leads, know where, someone's at in the buying process. So data entry and CRM management, that's at the top of my list of really what I would prioritize and what I see at Hire Heroes that we're helping a lot of agents and agency owners with. I'll give you an example, again, that I myself use my team, my virtual assistants with. If I have a call, let's say I'm talking to Christian and Christian says, hey, I'm thinking about placing an order in this area. Can you send me an invoice? This is what I'm looking at buying. If I were to take the time to go into my CRM and I'm updating what Christian and I talked about, and then I go and I click and I send the invoice, and then I'm following up with Christian after he pays, and then I'm confirming the order, that could easily be 30 minutes to an hour of my time, right? Over the course of the whole day, or maybe over multiple days. And if you just do it like as you go, you might not think much about it. Oh, this is just going to take 5 minutes to do this. It's easy to get caught up in the micro, like when you just look at the small task of updating this and clicking that. But what happens when you try to scale that, your time doesn't scale. It's like the one thing that you can't scale. You can't scale your own time. We all have 24 hours in a day. Nobody gets extra time. So if I'm having 20 interactions a day and each interaction could easily be 30 minutes of my own time if I'm trying to update a CRM, if I'm trying to send out invoices, if I'm trying to set appointments. I mean, you're talking about 10 to 20 hours of work. Essentially, one day would almost be a full work week of me trying to keep up with people. It just doesn't work. So having an assistant who can manage your CRM, who can send out emails, who can set appointments. Again, calendar management and CRM management, it kind of goes hand in hand depending on the technology you're using. Sometimes people have, a calendar system that's inside their CRM that can send out, automatic reminders. That way, when you do get on that appointment, you're not getting no-showed. So that's one of my number one. Going into AEP, especially from the lead side, you have to stay on top of your leads. You need to know your ROI. If you're not tracking your leads, you don't know your ROI, you're just spending money and you don't know what's going on. So by having an assistant that can help you manage those leads, you can get to the end of AEP and you can say, okay, we took in 500 direct mail leads. We took in, 500 internet leads. We did, 500 live transfers. And then you can actually look back at the data and see, well, what was my return on investment? What worked best? And that's how you can get better. And that's how going into future AEPs, you can get even more efficient with your time. The next task, and some of you that might be on this call today, would be customer service related work. So what I can tell you just from the past couple of years of growing Hire Heroes and working with small agencies and big agencies, once you hit around 150 to 250 clients on your book of business, and it's different for everybody, it's not an exact number, but you can call it about 200 to 250, you can start to get absolutely bogged down with customer service work. And I'm sure many of you on this webinar today are like, yes, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. And if you get to the point where you're spending 15 to 20 hours a week, again, I kind of already talked about this with the CRM equation, right? But if your phone's ringing and people are asking you really basic questions, hey, can I, where's my food card? I was supposed to get a food card with this policy. I don't know where it went. I don't have it. Hey, can you double check? Is this doctor in my network? I lost my card, my insurance card. I need another insurance card sent out to me. You name it, right? I've heard it all. I've seen it all. Some of the most basic questions. Your time, again, being as valuable as it is, if you start to spend 15 to 20 to 25 hours a week on this basic customer service related tasks, you're missing out on money. You're missing out on revenue. You're not going to be able to produce the same amount as if you were spending that time just writing policies. So that's one of the big ones where, if I'm talking to you on the phone or if Nikki's talking to you on the phone, that's one of the first things that we're going to try to figure out. How much time are you spending on customer service related tasks? Is that email? Is that inbound phone calls? Because that's one of the first things I want to get off your guys' plate that you should be thinking this too. And I probably should have mentioned this first, but for those of you who might be newer to the idea of delegation, to hiring someone, again, whether it's a virtual assistant or someone you want to physically put in your office, one of the first things that I recommend doing is going through and really essentially having an accounting done for your time. Figuring out what your normal work week looks like over the past month, over the past several months. How much time am I spent? You might not even realize it, right? Again, like I just talked about earlier with the micro tasks, you get so caught up in, oh, this just takes 5 minutes. This just takes 5 minutes. And you don't realize over the course of a week, you spent 15 hours doing something because it was 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes here, but it all adds up. So doing an accounting and really being self-aware is super important. And knowing where your time's going, because you can't delegate a task or you can't hire someone to take something over if you're not sure how much time it takes. So that's really important. I'm trying to hit on some of the major ones that we're seeing at Hire Heroes, but I think like that's really one of the first steps. If you're new to hiring someone, if you're new to delegation, take an accounting of your time, see where it's going, and say to yourself, man, how can I spend 90% of my work hours during the week selling insurance, writing policies, because that's how you guys get paid. That's how you grow your income, right? You should try to really be at 85, 90% of your time just writing policies, and everything else should either be eliminated, automated, or delegated. So that's my big three. And that's the first one I said is eliminated. So you want to eliminate tasks that aren't important. If you don't have to do it, don't do it. If you can automate it, if it's like an email or a text message, automate it before you delegate it. That's free, right? It doesn't cost any money to automate. And then delegation is, again, those tasks like a customer service, a call is coming in. That's something that's inevitable. That would be something that you'd need to delegate. So, and now so to get in again, to go back to common tasks that we're seeing at Hire Heroes that we're helping agents and agency owners with. A big one that I didn't realize until we started doing this is commission statements, you guys. How many of you have taken the time to go through, and again, being a broker representing, Christian mentioned he's got 6 major carriers, but I'm sure he's probably got a dozen or more carriers that he actually does business with. That is an insane amount of information to track. And a lot of these carriers,
27 Medicare Advantage certs this year.
Oh my.
Plus ACA.
That's insane, dude. So 27 carriers. I mean, think about that. 27 carriers. So if you're getting commissions from all these different carriers, sometimes these carriers mess up, you guys, and they don't pay you on policies that you have written that they should have. So that's something that we've been doing a lot of. Again, it kind of becomes data entry because you have your list of clients. It could be in a CRM, right? Or a spreadsheet, whatever. And then you have your list of your commissionable policies from the carriers. And we're able to help you guys by going through and checking, right? If we're already helping you with your CRM management and we know, who's a client and we know who's not a client, and then the carrier is saying, hey, these are the people we're paying you on, we can cross-reference those lists for you. And we can do it for all of your carriers, for 27 different carriers. And we have found an incredible amount of missed money. And the funny part is I have actually heard this from like the IMOs and like at the carrier level, they've talked about commissions that have nowhere to go. And sometimes it's as simple as they don't have banking information, or you messed up on one number when you were submitting like your ACH form. And they don't, maybe they reached out once, but they're not reaching out again. Maybe you missed that. So helping agency owners and agents find missed commissions. I mean, that's literally free money that's owed to you. And that can be really tedious. Again, if you're trying to do that yourself, if Christian were to take 27 carriers and he's going through and he's trying to cross-reference all of these clients, not to mention downline agents too. I mean, that's now you're complicating this whole equation to the 9th degree. I mean, it's just wild. So, that's probably I'm monitoring the clock here, you guys. So that's 3 of the major ones. There's a variety of tasks. Christian talked about social media. I think monitoring social media channels is a huge one, especially if you're spending money on paid ads. Once you start spending money on paid ads, you'll start to get people who are sending messages in because they're seeing your company, they're seeing your brand. So they might not click on the ad, but they might see it and then message you. And if you're one person and you're trying to do this all, you're not going to be able to see everything all the time. So I think social media management is huge. Again, I'm on probably 5 or 6 different platforms, just like Christian talked about. And at Lead Heroes and Hire Heroes, I'm rarely the one that is the first point of contact. If you reach out, I'll get involved, I'll send messages, but typically you're talking to one of my virtual assistants before I'm going to be talking to you, or my virtual assistant will set the appointment right there, through that social media chat. And then I'm getting on that appointment, another day. But yeah, I think, again, I'm more than happy to get into kind of a question and answers. I want to turn time back over just because we are getting towards the end of the hour. I want to turn time back over now to Christian. Kind of, final thoughts on what we talked about, Christian, anything that maybe I missed. And then after that, we can jump into Q&A.
Great stuff. I loved it. I thought you hit on so many important points. I think for me, guys, there's just so many things that I was doing that you just don't think about, that you don't realize how much time you're spending on. I think like scheduling appointments is a big one. Like nowadays in our office, most of the time, everybody in the office has a link to my calendar. Everybody that's part of our team has a link to my calendar to where if they need to call somebody or answer the phone for somebody has to meet with me for some reason. Usually I would like in another situation, if I was all by myself, they'd have to leave me a voicemail. I'd have to chase them down. We'd have to play phone tag like 4 or 5 times before we finally talked. It would take like days to get in touch sometimes, not always, but and just to schedule a stupid appointment. Nowadays, I probably schedule 10% of my own appointments on my calendar because there's other people that in the office that schedule all of my meetings for me. It just saves me a lot of time from having to just do that back and forth a little bit. So that the little things like that are just so immensely valuable. And there's so many things that you guys are spending time on that you don't even realize that are taking away from your set. That would be my biggest final thought that I would want to make sure that I hammer home with you guys is you might be thinking of a couple things that you're spending time on. I guarantee you, whatever you're thinking, there's probably 4 times more things that you could not do. Right. And I love what Glen said about the eliminate, automate, delegate. That is the name of the game. And that is really what's allowed my business to grow like it has. We stop doing things that don't matter because there's certainly a lot of things we stop doing. We do a tremendous amount of automation, and we've done trainings like about this in the past. But there's certain things that you just can't automate. So delegation is the final step. And I think you build your business with those 3 key principles. You're going to have an efficient business, a productive business, and more importantly, a profitable business.
And you can double your AEP production, right? That's what it's all about.
Double that AEP, AE and the P production.
Yes.
So guys, we wanted to kind of turn it over to some Q&A. So any questions you guys have, throw them in the chat, unmute yourselves. But before we get into that, just real quickly, I just wanted to reiterate and reemphasize the offer that Glen and Hire Heroes is offering. It's a week free of virtual assistants. Do I have that right? A week free?
That's correct. Yeah. And it's something that probably by the end of this month, we won't be offering the free week anymore, just based on availability and the cost, the internal cost to us. So this is really a limited time offer, you guys. But right now, and again, Christian shared, actually, Nikki put that link in the chat for us. So
maybe it can be dropped again.
Yeah, 40 hours, 100% free to try it out. You can meet your virtual assistant. We have custom software that allows you to communicate with your virtual assistant. You can assign tasks to your virtual assistant right there through the Hire Heroes software. And also it can help you train them on specific tasks. We kind of have this person that comes out of the box with basic training regarding, senior insurance. They already know, a lot of the scripting around what to say for appointment setting and lead generation, because again, they're coming from our team at Lead Heroes. But if it's a really specific task, that's something that you're going to have to help us train this individual on. I did see a question from Tim about the cost. It's $15 per hour after that free week if you have someone part-time, and if you have someone full-time, it can be as low as $13 per hour depending on how many hours you're paying for. So that's kind of the cost. Again, I I find in today's labor market, especially here in the US, that's an extremely competitive price point. I know agents and agency owners that I've talked to where at $20 an hour, they're really fighting to find someone to come in and do basic tasks, with inflation and COVID and everything else that's kind of happened in our economy. But yeah, I'll turn that back over to you, Christian.
Yeah. So I had a question come through. I just wanted to address real quickly. So some people were asking, had some weather problems or maybe had an appointment getting on late, about the recording. This is being recorded, but we're not sure how it's going to be available yet. So I can't comment on that any more than that as of now. We're still figuring that out internally. So we'll let you guys know as soon as we know more about that.
Absolutely.
And so somebody asked, does the VA set your appointments? I don't know if that's specifically for me or if they can. So my VA sets appointments for me if it's an appointment that comes through social media. So the role I have my VA doing is very much social media based, because social media is a big part of my agency and my company. Now, social media might not be as much of an emphasis for you. So you could certainly have your VA call people, set appointments for people, return calls, those kind of things. A big part of Lead Heroes is pre-scheduled appointments on custom calling campaigns. We use those campaigns pretty regularly. So there's no reason why they couldn't set appointments in a multitude of different fashions. That my VA does do it for me, but only for things that come through social media, just because that's the role that we really needed filled for the VA that works with me through Hire Heroes.
Yeah, I mean, appointment, that's like our core competency, right? It is appointment setting and pre-qualifying those appointments for you guys. Again, Christian mentioned that Lead Heroes, that's what we do. So when we find someone, it's very common for someone to come to us and say, hey, I need help with these administrative tasks, CRM management, data entry, but this is only going to take 15 hours a week. We can set appointments for you and really kind of fill out the rest of their time. So it's not just one task that this person can come in and do. It's really a multitude of tasks. So Andrea, yes. Is there a minimum number of hours? Yes. So right now, the minimum is 20 hours a week. So it's all month to month. There's no long-term commitments or contracts, but the minimum is 20 hours a week for the month. So 80 hours would be the minimum.
Glenn, we need to start over again. No, just kidding.
Yeah. So, okay. Another hour, 12 o'clock. Let's start.
All right, guys, you ready to go again?
Back to the start. We'll get this recording out, you guys. Christian and I were just talking yesterday about where and when, where to post it. So we'll let you know. We'll make sure everyone's aware as soon as we get this uploaded somewhere.
So here's a good question from Eduardo. Question: if you were just starting out in your first AEP, you have no money, but you're ready to sell, what do you do to get in front of as many clients as possible? That could be an hour-long webinar in and of itself, because that's $1 million question, but I will give you a brief answer to the best of my abilities without just kind of changing the direction of the entire webinar. Yeah. I think with AEP and getting in front of clients, there's a lot of different ways to do it, right? I mean, you can buy leads and call those leads and make appointments with them. You can door knock leads. You can do something with Lead Heroes and have them do pre-scheduled appointments. You can run ads. There's so many things you can do. You can do grassroots marketing, build referral relationships. There probably should be like 100 video master course, because there's a lot of ways to get business. And really, to me, getting business and getting in front of people is one and the same, right? And I think that is $1 million question. But if you have no money, and when you have no money, then you can't buy leads, right? So the only thing that you can really do is ground and pound. And ground and pound to me is getting out in the community, doing events, getting with 55 and up communities, building referral partners and things like that. That's probably all you can do if you don't have any money for marketing or leads. Everything in this business to get you a new client is going to cost you time or money, one or the other. So depending on which one you have more to give up on, depends kind of what your strategy would look like and what you're actually able to do. I don't know if Glenn, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I came from door-to-door sales before I got into insurance. I didn't spend any money on marketing. So, obviously, if we're talking about specifically Medicare Advantage and AEP, there's compliance that you need to be aware of. You can't just cold door knock everybody, but uh-oh. But that being said, I think there is a plethora of different ways. I think one that over the years has impressed me is senior centers. I've seen a lot of educational events through senior centers, and honestly, it's as simple as reaching out. Find the senior centers in your local area, talk to them, explain to them, hey, I'm a licensed Medicare agent. I want to talk to seniors about their options. Can we set up an event? So, maybe something like that. If, again, low cost or no cost, if that's really the route you're trying to go, Eduardo. Yeah. Any other questions you guys have about, again, outsourcing, delegating, hiring a virtual assistant, how any of this works? Yeah, let us know. I mean, we'll be on for probably another 10 or 15 minutes if you guys have more questions.
All right. Oh, that was Eduardo. You're very welcome. We're happy to do it. I personally love doing these things. I know Glen does too. So yeah. This stuff is a lot of fun. And I know for me, I try to do it as much as my schedule allows. I definitely do these kind of trainings every week for our university members. So this is kind of something that if you're in our, for those of you, I see some of the names in here that are in our university. This is a normal thing we do pretty often, but we wanted to do something open to available to the public, and love doing this kind of stuff just for anybody. So I wanted, while we're waiting to see if another question comes in, I'm just going to talk about one more thing here. So I've been working with our virtual assistant, Stacy, since January, right? January.
Yeah.
And I have been just absolutely blown away by the level of professionalism, the hard work. Her work schedule is Monday through Friday. I'll get messages on Sunday being like, letting me know someone's spamming on my Facebook business page. And I'm like, aren't you off the clock? Like, what are you doing? But like, it's almost like you have to tell, it's almost like you have to tell her, hey, you're good. Don't worry about it. Like worry about it tomorrow. You're off the clock. Go enjoy your life, but it's just the dedication, the dedication, has really been something that I've just been really blown away with. And I could see how you could build an entire team with virtual assistants and have them, get a lot done for you because they're just very hardworking.
Hey, this is Corey Weaver. I have a question for you. I have about 1,500 clients with no assistance at all. I train my clients pretty well that if there is a problem to call into customer service. If there's any other problems, of course, they can call me directly on my cell phone, but they're all pretty much on autopilot. I have a problem with if the virtual assistant can maybe follow up like 30, 60, 90 days after the appointment and then kind of quarter or 6 months to maybe upsell like a final expense or a cancer policy. And then, of course, during AEP I'm hearing that these drug plan prices are going to go crazy next year. That takes up a lot of my time. So how could the virtual assistant help with my drug plans where I can sell and they could kind of help me with that?
Yeah, great question, Corey. Are you utilizing a CRM?
Yes.
So yeah, we have some campaigns right now, like as an example, where we'll do like quarterly touches to your book of business. And we can really kind of customize what that looks like, right? So depending on the CRM that you're using, sometimes that's like hand in hand with automation. So, maybe an email goes out this month and then the following month, your virtual assistant actually makes a phone call and tries to reach out. And, it could just be like a check-in, like, hey, just want to make sure everything's going well. This is Corey Weaver Insurance. I'm his assistant. Just want to make sure everything's, up to date, or again, it can be like a cross-marketing appointment set. Hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm Corey Weaver's assistant. He's the one that wrote your Medicare supplement policy. He also helps seniors with burial insurance, and he would love to set up a time to talk to you more about that. So yeah, highly recommend it. That's amazing that you've trained 1,500 clients so well. Usually, like I said, usually by like 300 clients, I can hear the agent drowning through the phone. So
Yeah, it's a huge
hats
part
off.
of my process of like, hey, listen, these are things I can help with. Always call me directly if you want to, but if you try this first, if that doesn't work, and they usually do, and they're thankful for it. But I just every year say I'm going to do the 30, 60, 90 follow up, and I don't, because I'm always trying to sell a bit. I just need that help, so I'll have to. I'll give it a shot. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, great question, and I think that's one of the, honestly, just to kind of share a little bit more on that. I think that's one of the biggest misses that I see from a lot of agents and agency owners. Not only are you, not only is Corey talking about they're generating additional revenue off his existing book of business, right? I mean, if he were to sell a cancer policy or a dental policy or a final expense policy to someone that he already has their Medicare policy, you're also going to increase retention. You have more than one policy with that client, the chances of losing either policy goes down. That's been statistically proven over and over. And referrals. I mean, if you're talking to these people, your chances of getting a referral, you just stay top of mind, right? Oh my gosh, yeah, I have my policy with Corey Weaver. I forgot. I'm going to tell my neighbor who just asked me yesterday, who did I get my Medicare policy through? And then all of a sudden, Corey's phone's ringing because he's staying in touch with his clients year round. So your retention goes up, your revenue goes up, your referrals go up. I mean, it's absolutely highly recommend, really at least one touch a month if you can. And that could look like a million different things. It doesn't have to be, a phone call. It could be, a text message, an email. It can be
Automation.
Automation. It can be a physical letter, which again, you can automate that. You can have a postcard that goes out on their birthday. It could be a holiday related thing. Like there's so many different, there's no one way of doing it, but highly, highly, highly recommend.
What else, guys? Any other questions? Do you know how much I weigh? What other questions, guys? If anybody's got anything, throw it in the chat. Unmute yourself.
When's the wedding?
Next month.
October 15th.
October 15th. There's something going on that day. I don't know what, but
yeah, I have to check my calendar. Also, you guys, I'll share with you too. So if you go to leadheroes.com, you can actually schedule an appointment. So if you wanted to chat with me or chat with a member of my team like Nikki, you can schedule an appointment to chat with us right there through our website. The cost, Jill, I see your question there. Oh, another question here. I have my own. Yes. So our virtual assistants. So when you come to Hire Heroes and you're looking to hire a virtual assistant from us, we're drawing from our pool of callers who have been trained on Medicare and on final expense. That's kind of our core, right? So, I mean, it's really senior insurance as a whole. So that gives you kind of this baseline of knowledge. This is an experienced person that we've had success with, that we're essentially transplanting from our team into your agency. So, are they going to know every single detail? Probably not, right? There's going to be stuff that you'll have to help explain to them as it comes up. But they will have a baseline knowledge where they should be, light years ahead of someone who has no idea what Medicare is, right? So our whole goal at Hire Heroes is to take the time from hiring someone till they're trained and killing it for you. We're trying to shorten that ramp as much as we can. Jill, the cost, so I'll kind of go over this again. So the first 40 hours is 100% free. So you can click that link and sign up. And within 3 to 5 business days, we'll have you set up with a virtual assistant. And that first week's totally free. It's on us to try it out. After that, if it's part-time, it's $15 an hour. If it's full-time, it's $14 an hour. And if you pay quarterly for the full-time, it goes down to $13 an hour. So depending on how many hours you pay for, it's going to be between $15 and $13 per hour after that free 40 hours. Can we split the 40 free hours into 2 months? So yeah, typically that 40 free hours, it would, oh, thank you, Nikki, for posting. Look at that. Virtual assistants, you guys. I didn't even have to say anything. She already knew what I was thinking. So Nikki in the chat just posted the cost right there. You know, if you had multiple VAs, you'll see the quarterly. So we do have some clients where instead of having one VA for 3 months, they have 3 virtual assistants for 1 month. And so they're getting that $13 an hour price point. That 40 hours, I mean, if you really wanted to, you could split it over 2 weeks, I guess, if that's what you meant, instead of 2 months. So you could do like 20 hours a week for 2 weeks if you wanted. Yeah, that's absolutely no problem. The social media content. So that is the one thing, like what Christian's virtual assistant does. They can help create through like Canva, right? They can actually help create some digital images, but the actual specific content needs to come from you. You know, we're not going to create your content for you. But if you have content that's already created, we can pull from that. So, you know, Christian has a plethora of videos, right? So Christian doesn't have to create new content. His virtual assistant, Stacy, can go through his content that he's already created and repurpose it, which to me is everything, because Christian's probably put in years of his life creating content at this point. Poor Violet. Poor Violet never sees her daddy, but
so I'll kind of expand on that a little bit, guys, if you're interested to know. So we have a great example if you want to kind of see the kind of what kind of content, what kind of creation that my virtual assistant's doing for me right now. So there's a Six Figure Medicare Instagram account you guys should definitely go follow, that we started earlier in the year. And I don't touch it. I don't see it. You know, I only see things if someone's like, you know, calling me ugly or something, and then, you know, I get a screenshot about it. So if you want to get my attention from that, that's how you do it. But a great example is, like, I don't know how well you guys can see this, but this is something that Stacy made on Canva. It's kind of blurry, not really the greatest you can see it, but so what she does is she'll go through a video of mine and she'll find a quote of something that I said that sounds profound, and she'll repurpose it, take the quote, and actually we have a system in place to where she sends the quote over to someone else in my office. They review it, approve it, and then she uses that and makes a design and then posts it over various different social medias. So she's taking things that I've said, but from things I've said in the past over videos, and expand on what Glen was saying of the videos. Eric did a video with me yesterday, and we determined that I've done, between podcasts and YouTube channels, over 1,000 pieces of content.
Wow.
It's kind of gross when you think about it.
That's amazing. Billionaire status. Here you come. But yeah, that's the one. Great question though, Mary. And you know, you don't have to, I guess that was the whole point, is you don't necessarily have to create the content. If you already have content created, it could be on your website. It could be a book. It could be a PDF. It could be a video. It could be a podcast. Like, we can pull from your existing content. But if you don't have existing content, then yes, the content creation itself would fall back on you as an agent.
Repurposing your existing content is probably the name of the game.
100%. That's what I mean. Look at the big guys in the social media space. You know, Gary V, are you kidding me? Holy cow. He runs the same content over and over and over. And it's wild. I'll see the same video 100 times and I'm still watching it. What's wrong with me? I don't know.
We're suckers.
I know. I'm like, wait a second. I've already seen this video. And he's like, he'll play the content and then he'll like re-edit it. It's like a different frame, but it's the same content. Like,
you know, Gary V's entire podcast is just the audio of his YouTube videos.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he just like, it's all but it works. He's grown a massive following, and he's really done it all through repurposing. He's taking his YouTube videos, he's putting it on TikTok, he's using his YouTube videos and his Instagram stories, you know, quotes. I mean, you name it, it's wild.
Yep.
Any other questions, you guys, about outsourcing, delegating for AEP, anything that Christian and I talked about? We're going to be wrapping up here in just a minute.
That's a pretty good question from Emily. Can
Yes.
the VA do video editing? Do they have those skills?
So basic video editing, we can absolutely do. So to give you an example, if you record a video, like the video that Christian and I just created, this webinar video, you could take a video like this and say, hey, I want my intro video spliced on the front, and I want you to cut it from here to here. And then I want you to upload it to my YouTube channel and then share it to my social media pages. A virtual assistant from Hire Heroes could absolutely do that. Now, if you were getting into some like really specifics with video editing, and you were like, hey, I want this to be on screen, and I need like this special effect to be here, high level video editing like that, you would want to find a specialist and pay them to do that. But basic video editing, absolutely. Appreciate the question, Emily.
All right. Should we wrap up?
Yeah, let's do it. Any other questions, you guys? You can shoot an email over to Nikki, which is just info. Nikki, if you want to share your email here in the chat, feel free to shoot her an email. You can set up an appointment to chat with her or myself. And then again, just to kind of reiterate, the first week's 100% free, probably only till the end of this month. And then it's going to be going away. So if you guys are interested, even semi-interested, and you want to take advantage, please sign up today. Real quick. Yes, Emily, fire away. Woohoo! Yeah, we can work with you on that as far as like, so Emily's question, you guys, if you're seeing that in the chat, sometimes there will be a fluctuation on, I guess, to explain it a little better, we look at it like a bucket of hours, okay? So if you're paying for a part-time virtual assistant for a month, you just bought an 80-hour bucket. So you can utilize that bucket of hours however you choose. The only requirement on our end is this virtual assistant needs to work, so we put a minimum of 20 hours. That's kind of like the floor, right? But then you can pull from that bucket however you see fit. So if you're like, hey, I only need 20 hours this week, but next week I might need 50 hours. Again, if you go over that full time, 40 hours a week, we have to kind of work with the virtual assistant, make sure that fits their schedule. But yeah, typically a little bit of fluctuation like that is absolutely fine. And we have no problem managing that. Saturdays and Sundays, again, that's going to be specific to the virtual assistant. Sometimes they're happy to work those extra hours. If they aren't available, then we can find someone that can specifically fill in on the weekend for you guys. I know Saturdays can be really great for setting appointments and going into AEP. I know most agents are working all day Saturday, 6 days a week, right? Monday through Saturday, sometimes even 7 days a week through Sunday. So if we set you up with a virtual assistant and you're like, hey, I really need Saturdays and Sundays, we can either, find a second virtual assistant to fill in those weekend hours. We can find a different virtual assistant who is willing to work all of those hours and work overtime essentially for you. But yeah, that's not a problem at all, Emily. And thank you, Mary. Yeah, appreciate everyone for joining us today, being on the webinar. Christian and I have been planning this for a month, so it feels great to finally knock this thing out of the park. And yeah, again, any other questions, you guys, I'll just kind of direct you to Hire Heroes or leadheroes.com. Feel free to give us a call or schedule an appointment, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Christian, any final thoughts to wrap up here?
Real quickly. So Emily, shoot me an email on that question so I don't forget. If you could just do me a favor, I just sent you my email. Shoot me an email and I will reply as soon as I get time, and I'm happy to answer that for you. But yeah, guys, thank you for being here. This was fun. I barely spend a month preparing almost for anything. So I just let's go. A day or two. So, this was fun, guys. If you guys like this, you like this kind of content, this kind of training, let us know, and we'll definitely do more of them in the future.
Yes. Appreciate everyone's time.
All right. Later, guys.
See ya.